Friends, I welcome you to this ATAL FDP 5 days program on innovation, entrepreneurship, and startup. This is the fourth day of our program. You had many interactive sessions. You know what was the process of entrepreneurship, what is the difference between innovation and invention, what is a patent, what is a trademark. Then also we had few sessions on the technology, how IoT can be used for entrepreneurship and startups in different domains. We also heard from the various experts what they are doing in their institutes, and pre-incubation or incubation centers can be set up. Also, we had come to know about the National Innovation and Startup Policy. What are the provisions for students? What are the provisions for faculty? So, friends, that was a very interesting journey up till now. But today's session is little different. As all of you know, that India has got a rich heritage of knowledge, and in every ATAL FDP we have one session on Indian knowledge system. So friends, this session would be on Indian knowledge system, and I am very proud to announce that our stalwart is here in this particular area as an expert. I welcome Dr. N Mishra Saab. Sir, on behalf of Director NITR Bhopal, faculty, and all the participants, I extend a very hearty welcome to you in this ATAL FDP program. Namaskar, sir. Sir, I think your mic is mute. Anyway, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Nishit. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much.
I just wanted to brief you about this FDP. This is an ATAL FDP program. Sir has been contributing to many such programs at NITR Bhopal uh, with a very wonderful feedback. And sir is here once again. Sir, around more than 100 participants have joined this particular FDP. Very shortly, the others would also be joining. And they are from Pan India. Teachers from technology, engineering, polytechnic, science, arts, humanities, pharmacy, and different areas are there. There are few international participants also. So friends, I would like to first introduce Dr. P.N. Mishra to all of you. Please permit me to read his profile. Dr. P.N. Mishra's multidimensional academic career includes doctorate in mathematics and master's degree in management and mathematics, along with LLB honors. He has been a recipient of UN Fellowship sponsored by the International Trade Center Geneva and Commonwealth Academic Staff Fellowship. In 1980, India JC found him to be one of the 10 most outstanding young persons of the country. He has also been conferred the title of Yoga Shiromani by Yoga Vedanta Dhanvanti Ashram Trivandrum. In 1997, Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta, offered Shri Ratan Tata Visiting Fellowship. In 2017, Dr. Mishra was honored with Mahatma Madan Mohan Malvi Hindi Sevi Samman. Before coming to the academic world as a lecturer at the University of Allahabad, he worked as Deputy General Manager with the UP State Handloom Corporation, Kanpur. Pandit JLN Institute of Business Management of Vikram University, Ujjain, was founded and led by him as Professor Director. He was the founding Dean of Faculty of Management of Vikram University, Ujjain. He has also worked as a senior faculty member at the Management Development Institute, Gurgaon, and has worked in the core team for the National Management Program. At Devi Ahilya University, Indore, he had held various positions such as head, director, and dean at the institutions like Institute of Management Studies, School of Economics, International Institute of Professional Studies, School of Law, Deen Dayal Upadhyay Kaushal Kendra, Center for E-Business, and School of Defense and Management Studies. He has also officiated as Vice Chancellor of the Devi Ahilya University Indore on various occasions. He has worked as Fellow in the Department of Economics and Accounting, University of Liverpool, UK, and has been associated as Senior Visiting Faculty with the School of Health System Management at Tulane University, USA. He has been to many countries on academic assignment such as USA, UK, Switzerland, South Africa, Brazil, Jordan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal. He addressed 55th UN Subcommission on Human Rights in August 2003 in Geneva. He has been associated with prime institutions like Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration, Mussoorie, and Army War College, erstwhile College of Combat, Mau, Police Training Academy, Hyderabad, Indian Institute of Management, Indore, University of Allahabad, Dr. H.S. Gore University, Sagar, Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi, etc., as a resource person and visiting faculty. He has been Executive Secretary, West Zone for the National Campaign for Popularizing Science at the grassroots level, namely Bharat Jan Gyan Vigyan Jatha, sponsored by National Council of Science and Technology Communication, New Delhi. Dr. Mishra has 4 books and large number of research papers and popular articles to his credit. More than 40 research scholars have already been awarded doctorate under his guidance. Besides these, he has conducted many workshops and training programs on managerial effectiveness and self-growth for officers and managers of public and private sector organizations. Dr. Mishra was instrumental in starting the Indore chapter of Antarashtriya Sahyog Parishad, Indian Council for International Cooperation, and is its founder president. He is actively working for literacy, health, and community development through the Center for Common Economics and Development Consultancy Society, a Jaipur-based NGO. Dr. Mishra has been vice chairman of this society. Dr. Mishra is founder president of Shri Krishna Foundation, a voluntary organization dedicated to the promotion of Indian spiritual wisdom and Srimad Bhagavad Gita. He is also founder trustee of Dastak, Ahmedabad, and president Utkarsh, Indore. Both are NGOs working for social awakening and change. In his more than 4 decades experience of teaching, training, and consulting in the field of management at national and international level, Dr. Mishra is credited with various innovations and new academic programs. He is very well known for introducing Bharati concepts of management, teaching, and training. Currently, Dr. P. N. Mishra is chairperson, Textile Association of India, MP Unit, and honorary director, Star Academy of Advanced Learning, Indore. So friends, as I told you, a very big stalwart is with us who has been working for 4 decades, not only nationally, internationally, into teaching, training, and consultancy. He is a well-known name across the globe, and I am very happy that Sir is here to introduce the concepts to all of us. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Nishit Dubeji, and my fellow teachers, researchers, and academicians working in various institutions in India and abroad. I will, about 2 hours time till 12 noon has been put on my disposal. So I shall be speaking to you for about 1 hour 30 minutes. And then after that, the floor will be open for all for question answer and comments, criticism, if any. But meanwhile, if any one of you wants to raise any question in between for seeking any clarification during my presentation, you can simply switch on your mic and you can put forward your question. But any discussion will be taken up only when my presentation is over. Thank you very much, Dr. Nishit ji again, and the NITR Bhopal, everybody who has been associated with this program. My task is to talk about the Indian knowledge system, Bharatiya Jnana Parampara. Well, if we want to know Indian knowledge system, Bharatiya Jnana Parampara, first of all, what are the books, the material, the texts that we need to consult? That's number one issue. And what are the problems in understanding the very so resource material about the Indian knowledge system? What kind of literature we should look into? What are the people who should be approached to know and understand Indian knowledge system? So this is the first thing that we shall be discussing. But before that, as you already know, and it has been documented not by Indian historians only, but the world historians in general and European historians in particular, that India is one of the oldest surviving civilization on this earth, on this globe. I'm saying one of the oldest surviving civilization just because of my modesty and academic humbleness. You can say that we are the longest surviving civilization on the whole earth. Other ancient civilizations are China, Egypt, Mesopotamia, now Baghdad, but now Iraq. But none of them, barring apart China, is a surviving civilization. China is not surviving in its ancient form. It is modern China that has very little link with the ancient China. So we are longest surviving civilization, and we have been able to blend together the tradition, the culture, and the modernity. Now, we are the longest surviving civilization. That is point number one. And at least 2 points, rather 3 points in human history, we have been the number one country in the whole world. The time of Rig Veda, there was nobody around us when the world was learning how to read and write. We were creating wonderful music. We were doing advanced researches in geometry and in number theory. Then another time was the time of Mahabharata. There are citations which establish beyond doubt that at the time of Mahabharata, the technology of guided missile was there. And it was superior in one sense that if you have fired your missile and the work has been done before your missile hits the target, you can call it back. But today, you have the technology of guided missiles. but you don't have the technology of calling a guided missile back if the purpose is approached. You know, there is a group of people, whenever any new invention or discovery takes place, they will open some pages of Vedas or Shastras or Puranas, and they would say that this particular thing was already there in Veda, already there in Purana, and there is nothing new in this. I do not belong to that group of scholars at all. As a matter of fact, what I say is with due academic responsibility. Not that justifying and claiming every new thing that it has come from the Vedas. Third time was the time of what we call in history the golden period of Indian history. Kautilya and Chandragupta combined. The Kautilya Chandragupta combined period was created by the efforts of Acharya Chanakya and his main disciple Chandragupta. So at least at 3 point of time, we have been number one country in the whole world. Now, to sustain that kind of society, we must have developed a knowledge system. There must have been a system of administration, education, medicine, town planning, and everything. The question is, if we want to know that knowledge system, what kind of literature, what kind of books we need to refer. So first book, of course, is the Rig Veda. After Rig Veda, you have all three Vedas. As a matter of fact, we say that there are four Vedas. As a matter of fact, before Mahabharata, there were three Vedas only. So you can say that there are 3 plus 1 Veda. The fourth Veda, the Atharva Veda, is after Mahabharata. There's a proof available for this in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna, Bhagwan Shri Krishna says, Veda Trayeshu, in all the three Vedas. Had the fourth Veda existed at that time, Krishna would have said that in all the four Vedas. So in Bhagavad Gita, he is very candid in saying that in Veda Trayeshu. So four Vedas, three were prior to Mahabharata and fourth is after Mahabharata. Now the question is of understanding Vedas. It is a myth that the Vedas are in Sanskrit language. They are yet another language older than Sanskrit language. You can call them the Vedic language, or you can call that the Vedic Sanskrit. Unfortunately, a comprehensive dictionary of Vedic Sanskrit and Vedic grammar is not available today. That's the first problem. Second, the words have been changing meaning, and every word has a history behind. We do not know in which particular meaning, in which particular context, a particular word has been used in Vedas. For example, in Rig Veda, a word goshti has been used. Now, what was the goshti at that point of time? Goshti was not a seminar or conference. Gosht is the root word for goshti, and ghost means wooden structure that is paved into the earth to fasten the domesticated animal. In Hindi, we call it khunta. So, ghost was khunta, and goshti used to be a place where domesticated animals such as horses, cows, etc. are kept. Now, no animals go to Goshti. Scholars, academicians, researchers, they go to Goshti. The word has changed the meaning altogether. Just to carry this message home, I will take a few examples from English, a few examples from Sanskrit and Hindustani, Hindi language. And this is true for any language of the on the earth. Every word has a history behind, and words keep on changing meaning. I take example from English. Mathematics, is the science of numbers today. But if you take only a dictionary of 300 years old that is available, then the meaning of mathematics there is the logical knowledge. Every logical knowledge was known as mathematics. Come to Sanskrit once again. In Sanskrit, we have a word viruddha. The meaning of viruddha is not in opposition of, as is the popular meaning of viruddha today, in opposition of. In Sanskrit, viruddha means a thing, an entity which has been properly disciplined and properly controlled. V plus ruddha. V plus ruddha. A thing which has been properly controlled is under discipline. That used to be the viruddha. But today, the word viruddha is used for expressing the concept of opposition. That is viruddha. It was not the case earlier. Take a few examples from Hindi language. We say Kali Syahi, Kali Syahi, Neeli Syahi, Lal Syahi. What is Syahi as a matter of fact? The root word is Syah, black, black. But today we have Lal Syahi. It is totally contradictory. Sabji, lash green, subs is green. But we have bagan ki sabji, tomato ki sabji. No relationship with green, and yet you call them sabji. Another word which is only 100-year old, khilafat. In 1929-2022, there was an agitation in Turkey to protect the title of Caliph. Khalifa means the head of the state and head of the religion both. Congress party in India started an agitation supporting this particular thing that was happening in Turkey, and that movement was known as Khilafat Andolan in modern Indian history. From there, the word Khilafat entered into our day-to-day parlance, having the meaning of in opposition of. Then it entered the Hindustani and Hindi dictionary, and it has become a formal Hindi or Hindustani word today. Meaning of Khilafat is in opposition of. As a matter of fact, in Hindustani, the appropriate word for opposition is mukhalfat, not khilafat. हम करते मुखालफत हैं और कहते हैं खिलाफत कर रहे हैं. The word has changed meaning altogether. So the first problem, dictionary grammar is not available. Second problem, the words have been changing meaning, and we exactly do not know in what particular context a word has been used in Vedas. Then another issue, those who know science and technology, they have very little or no knowledge of Vedas, and vice versa. Those who know Vedas have little knowledge of what is happening of technology mathematics, engineering, medicine, etc. And there remains a very big gap, very big knowledge gap. So, but therefore, there is a big communication gap, and we are not able to understand the Vedas totally. But there is one very happy thing. There is a group of scholars in this country who know modern science, technology, engineering, medicine, etc., and who know little of Vedas also, but they are very enthusiastic and they are trying to reconstruct the entire wisdom again. I am happy to share with you that I belong to that small group of academicians who are busy in reconstructing the ancient knowledge system, recreate the ancient knowledge system. So that is another thing, big communication gap between the knowers of modern science and technology and knowers of Vedas. Another, the Vedic scholars are so much so contented and happy in themselves that they do not want to discuss, open up with lesser mortals like us. हम जैसे तुच्छ मनुष्यों के सामने वह अपनी बात रखें, ऐसा होता नहीं है. अपने आप में हम इतने आनंद में हैं, इतने मस्त हैं that they are not very keen to open up before the lesser mortals. So these are the problems of understanding Vedas today. As you know, there are 4 Vedas. With every Veda, there is an Upaveda. So, right now in the beginning itself, the number becomes 8 sources. After Vedas, you have Shastras. This is a group of very educated people. If I ask a question randomly to any one of you, of course, I'm not going to do that how many Shastras are there? Many of you might not be able to answer this question. And if I ask the name of those Shastras, perhaps the number will be further reduced. So there are 6 Shastras. 6 Shastras. And the purpose of Shastras is to understand Vedas. Purpose of Shastras is to put Vedic knowledge into application. After Ved and Shastra, parallel you have Aranyaka, the high quality literature that has been created in the forest, and Upanishads belong to this category, and you call them Vedanta also, the end of knowledge. How many Upanishads are there is not clearly decided. Sri Ram Sarma Acharya has published a collection of Upanishad in 3 volumes, and he has mentioned about 200 Upanishads in that. Gita Press Gorakhpur has published commentary on 10 Upanishads. Likewise, the number of Upanishad is not certainly decided, but there are 10 major Upanishads. As a matter of fact, in Mughal period also, Upanishads were being written, they were being composed. The elder brother of Aurangzeb, Dara Shikoh, was a very great scholar of Persian and Sanskrit both. He himself translated a few Upanishads, and not only that, he motivated other scholars to translate Upanishad into the Persian language. He tried to compose an Upanishad as well. The name of that Upanishad is Allo Upanishad. Allo Upanishad. Allah plus Upanishad. In that Upanishad, he has tried to combine the grammar and the vocabulary of 2 different languages, Sanskrit as well as Persian. Very simple and very communicative. Very simple and very communicative at the same time. The verses of Upanishads are known as mantra. So a few mantra I will share with you. Allah Ta'ala Prasadeno Sarva Karyam Phate Bhavet. Two languages. Sanskrit, Prasadena, Persian, Allah Ta'ala, Sarva Karyam, Sanskrit, Phate Bhavit, again Persian. But for any intelligent person, any person who has some knowledge of these languages, Sanskrit and Hindi, she can very clearly extract the meaning out of this. Allah Ta'ala Prasadena Sarvakaryam Phate Bhavit. By the grace of Almighty, all of your actions will be successful. That is the meaning. So Upanishads, exact number not known, about 200 or so, even more. And some Upanishads are very voluminous. For example, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, very thick. And some Upanishads are very short. They can be written down in one page or half a page. Isha Vasya Upanishad is such an Upanishad which has barely 15 mantras or even less than that. Mahatma Gandhi was very fond of this Upanishad, Isha Vasya Upanishad, and he has stated that if entire Indian wisdom is destroyed and only Isha Vasya Upanishad is retained, survives, not full, even if one mantra is retained, then entire Indian wisdom can be reconstructed. And that mantra is Isha Vasya Idam Sarvam Yat Kinchit Jagatyam Jagat Ten Tyaktena Bhunjitha Ma Kaschit Dhanam. Whatever you see in this universe, fixed or moving, is not yours. That is of Almighty. You have limited right lien on this to use it with the sense of reverence and detachment. That is the meaning of this mantra. Isha Vasyamidam Sarvam Yad Kinchit Jagatyam Jagat Tena Tyaktena Bhunjitha Ma Kaschit Dhanam. Mahatma Gandhi says that even if this one particular mantra is retained, entire Indian wisdom can be reconstructed. After Upanishad, you have Purana, history, old. There are 18 Purana and there are 18 Upapurana, Sub-Purana. So number becomes 36. Out of 18 Purana, the most respected and popular in North India at least is Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Mahapurana. And the believers in Sanatan Hindu Dharma, they consider the Bhagavad Mahapuranam as living Sri Krishna. There is one more book which has been given the status of a living being, and that is Guru Granth Sahib. So these two books in Indian tradition are regarded as living being. So 18 Purana and 18 Upurana, 36. Then comes Valmiki Ramayana. When you say only Ramayana, it means Valmiki Ramayana, Ramayana which has been composed by Valmiki, and that is the first poetry on this earth. Ramayana in Sanskrit language by sage poet Valmiki. Valmiki, to my mind, is still the first poet of the world literature, is still unsurpassable by any poet of any religion, of any language in the whole world. You can say that I'm making a very tall claim. Have I read all the literature of the world languages? No, I have not. But I have studied, read major literary development in most of the languages of the world, either through English medium or through Hindi medium, so I know what is happening on the literary front in the whole world. Still, Valmiki is unsurpassable poet of any language in the whole world. After Valmiki Ramayana, you have Mahabharata, a great treatise composed by Vedavyasa. I will just share with you something about Mahabharata. The name Mahabharata is not account of the Bharat name, the younger brother of Lord Sri Rama. This is not also on the name of Bharat Muni, and it is not also on the name of the son of Shakuntala and Dushyanta. This Mahabharata has no relationship with all these. As a matter of fact, in the beginning, the book contained only about 25,000 verses, and the name was Jaya. After this, another 25,000 more verses were added, and the name became Vijaya. After that, another about 25,000 verses were added, and the name became Bharat, related with Bhara, the weight. It became a very heavy piece of literature. So name Bharat, बहुत भारी है, बहुत वजनी है. So the name Bharat. And then another 25,000 more verses were added to it. So the number of verses became 1 lakh, about 10,000, and the name became Mahabharat, heaviest in weight, bahut bhari. In India, there's a myth about Mahabharat that it must not be read, it must not be kept in the home. I strongly disapprove this idea. Dr. Nishit knows my house and he has been in my house on several occasions. He might have noted that I have kept Mahabharata in 7 volumes in original Sanskrit language, Hindi and English translation, and everything. As a matter of fact, intelligentsia class of this country created this myth and fear that Mahabharata should not be kept in the house. It must not be read. Otherwise, the masses will become very wise, very intelligent, and subjugating them, exploiting them further may not be possible then, because they will be wiser after studying the Mahabharata. So a myth was created and popularized that Mahabharata should not be kept in homes and Mahabharata should not be studied. In my considered opinion, if you read Mahabharata, you will not do Mahabharata. But if you will not read Mahabharata, you will definitely do Mahabharata. So after Mahabharata, I have not talked about Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Because Bhagavad Gita, though is a very important text, but this is not a kind of stand-alone text. ये अपने आप में कोई पूरी किताब नहीं है. It is a part of Mahabharata. There are 18 chapters in Mahabharata. They are known as Parva, Yuddha Parva, Shanti Parva, Bhishma Parva, Aranya Parva, and so on and so forth. So, in Mahabharata, there is a chapter known as Bhishma Parva. In that Bhishma Parva, the discussion of Bhagavad Gita is there in 18 different chapters. So, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, though very important, is not an stand-alone kind of text. So, Valmiki Ramayana and Mahabharata. About Mahabharata, it is said that whatever wisdom is available elsewhere, that is also available in Mahabharata, and whatever is not available in Mahabharata is not available elsewhere, and it has been given the status by the scholars that it is the fifth Veda. It is the fifth Veda. So Mahabharata has been given the status of fifth Veda. After Mahabharata, you have Arthashastra. Arthashastra, when we say, it is by Kautilya. And Arthashastra is not a book on economics, as the popular meaning goes. It is basically a book on public administration. Public administration. After Arthashastra, you have very many other texts also. Large number of Shrutis and Smritis, Ramcharitmanas of Tulsidasa. Then you have Guru Granth Sahib, which I have referred to, Kabir, Rahim, Raskhan. That is the contribution of North India in the Indian knowledge system. Go to South, you have in Kannada language the Vachana Sahitya, full of very deep wisdom. I believe some of the participants from Karnataka might also be participating in this, and I will request them to study Vachana Sahitya, study between the lines to find out the wisdom about management, society, science, and technology that is available in Vachana Sahitya. Remember, in this old literature, there will be no jargons present, but there is definitely the wisdom available. Jargon नहीं है उसमें, शब्द जाल नहीं है, पर उसमें वो ज्ञान जरूर है. Go further down in Tamil Nadu, in Tamil language, and Tamil is also a very ancient language, perhaps older than Sanskrit. And some scholars believe that Tamil is older language than Sanskrit. So you have Thirukural and many other pieces of literature in Tamil. So this is all, and you have literature in Bengali, Gujarati, Marathi, in all languages. Das Bodha and commentaries on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. This is a brief description of Indian knowledge system. Now, I started the study of Indian knowledge system the way back in 1986. I cannot claim that I have studied the entire Indian knowledge system. In all these years, which I have very sincerely devoted to the study of Indian knowledge system, I would only say that I know the tip of the iceberg. My purpose of talking to you today is that at least you develop the appreciation of Indian knowledge system, and you make it a favorite pastime. Whenever you have free time, you can study your ancient literature. That is the brief description of Indian knowledge system. Now, what kind of wisdom is contained in this? I will take few examples from Arthashastra and few examples from Mahabharata, and then if time permits, I can take example from other sources also. Kautilya's Arthashastra, because when you say Arthashastra, the meaning that we draw is the book which was written by Kautilya. First thing over here, that Kautilya was not the real name of the creator of this book. His real name was Vishnugupta. Vishnugupta. Remember, though he was a Brahmin, but he was carrying the title of Gupta, Vishnugupta. And in our tradition, though that tradition is substantially destroyed, the caste was not on the basis of birth. It was on the basis of your virtues and achievements, qualifications. In Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Chaturya Varnamaya Srashtum Guna Karma Vibhagasa. The Almighty has created all the four varnas, and on the basis of guna, the virtues that you have, and the karma, the duties that you are performing, he is not talking that the varnas have been created on the basis of birth. So Vishnugupta was his name, and he was Brahmin by caste. Another popular name of his is Chanakya, because his father's name was Chanaka. So, son of Chanak is Chanakya in Sanskrit language. Kaunteya, Anjaneya, Kunti ka beta Kaunteya, Anjani ka beta Anjaneya. So, likewise, he was Chanakya, the son of Chanaka. And Kautilya, a very popular name, was the name given by his adversaries, his opponents, his critiques. The meaning of this is embodiment of cruelty, because he practiced very ruthless politics against the nation of against the enemies of the nation. देश के दुश्मनों के विरुद्ध उसकी नीतियां बड़ी कठोर हुआ करती थी और उनको खत्म करने में उसे कोई हिचक नहीं होती थी. And therefore his enemies, his adversaries, his opponents, his critics called him Kautilya, the embodiment of cruelty. Now he's the person. Now coming to the book and the main hero of Kautilya, the Chandragupta. This book was discovered in the personal library of King of Mysore in 1905 by two scholars, Sham Shastri and Damodar Shastri. And by 1909, Sham Shastri and Damodar Shastri, they published some articles in English language in European journal on Kautilya's Arthashastra. Entire Europe then started saying that Kautilya is not a real person. Kautilya's Arthashastra is not a real book. This is a fake book. This is compilation of the work of many other books. Because if they admit Kautilya as a real person and his Arthashastra as a real book, then European claim that the Machiavelli is the tallest of all political and administrative thinkers will collapse immediately. Therefore, Europe was very reluctant in accepting Kautilya as a real person and Kautilya's Arthashastra as a real book. At that time, India was a slave, but then Indian scholars, Saligram, Jaiswal, Radha Kumud Mukherjee, and many of them advanced very deep, non-refutable arguments to establish that Kautilya was a real person and Kautilya's Arthashastra is a real book. After some time, the copy of that book, manuscript form, was discovered in a Jain temple in Bihar and another copy in Trivandrum, Tiruvananthapuram. So that debate is settled forever that Kautilya is a real person and Kautilya's Arthashastra is a real book. This is about the book. Now, one thing about the messages which are given in this book. Kautilya has discussed many issues pertaining to the administration of the state. And he has also given the concept of fourfold politics: Shama, Dama, Danda, Bheda. Those who might not be knowing, for the benefit of them, I will explain this fourfold politics of Kautilya. But before I take up this, I will discuss some of the lessons, some of the messages given in Kautilya's Arthashastra. Very interesting book to be studied, not only for an administrator or minister, but even for a common person. In Kautilya Arthashastra, in second chapter, the qualification of Maha-Amatya is described. Maha-Amatya, who is a Maha-Amatya? The Prime Minister. The head of the Council of Ministers was Maha-Amatya, that was his title. प्रधानमंत्री को महाअमात्य कहते थे और बाकी जो दूसरे मिनिस्टर्स हैं उनको अमात्य कहते थे. So the first qualification that Kautilya has prescribed for Maha-Amatya is that he has to be born citizen. स्वदेशोत्पन्न होना चाहिए. He has to be a born citizen. Then other qualities: he should be presentable, smart, should be a good listener, a good speaker, should be a good driver too. कुशल घुड़सवार होना चाहिए उसको. उस समय घोड़े ही थे, तो आज रथवत नहीं है, घोड़े नहीं है, आज तो कारें हैं, तरह तरह की और भी प्रकार की व्हीकल हैं. He should be capable of convincing people. तर्क वितर्क करने में माहिर उसको होना चाहिए. And so on and so forth. Remember, the first quality he has prescribed is that he has to be a born citizen. Your Prime Minister has to be a born national, born Indian. In some of the constitutions in the world, the Constitution of USA, United States of America, it says clearly that the president and certain other positions will go only to the born citizens. They will not go to the naturalized citizens. For example, Henry Kissinger was a very able person. He was professor of human relations in Harvard University, and he could become only the secretary, he could go only up to the Secretary of State. He could become only Home Minister. He could not become the President of America because he was not a born American. He was a naturalized American. And remember, this was said about 2,200 years back, when the problem of Madam Sonia Gandhi becoming the Prime Minister of this country or not was not at all there. So the Prime Minister should be Swadeshotpanna, should be a born national. For other ministers, of course, he has relaxed the qualification, but not for the Prime Minister. He has to be born citizen. Now, he discusses the process of decision making. King must not take any decision without consultation. Without consultation. Kautilya is clear in saying this, that राजा के सफलता का मूल है उसका कंसल्टेशन के बाद फैसला लेना. If a king wants to be a successful king, he should not take any decision without consultation. Now, many psychological problems also he has discussed, such as in open consultation, the senior ministers will dominate the junior ministers. So, the voice of the junior minister may not reach to the king. And then, in the council of ministers also, there might be groupism. So, those groups will try to dominate one on the another, and therefore true consultation will not reach to the king. So what is the prescription that Kautilya gives? That the king must consult his vice ministers one by one, not in the open council of ministers. एक एक से वो बारी बारी से बात करे. And while doing this, the king must not disclose his mind. राजा को अपना दिमाग नहीं बताना है कि वो क्या सोच रहा है. If the king discloses his own opinion, then there is a likelihood that all ministers will endorse only that. क्योंकि वो राजा को ही अच्छी अच्छी प्रिय प्रिय बातें सुनाना चाहेंगे. And you can see this in modern organizations also. Generally, the house does not disagree with the chief of the department. Everybody says that, yes, this is a wonderful thing that you are thinking and you must implement immediately. This is psychophancy of the first order, and that is detrimental for any organization. That is detrimental for any organization. So the king must not open his mind, and he should pose the problem and discuss it with the ministers in isolation, one by one, not in collectiveness. After listening to the ministers, the king can now formulate his own ideas. Again, he is not going to implement that. He will put forward his decision before the Purohit. Who was a Purohit? He was not at all a priest. कि सवेरे आरती करेगा, हनुमान चालीसा पढ़ेगा, शाम को आरती करेगा. Not that. Pur at that time was city republic. As a matter of fact, the Pur word was used for the kingdom, for the state. And Purohit used to be the conscience keeper of the king. And he was above the council of the ministers. Pur ke hit ka jo chintan kare, who thinks of the interest of the nation, was Purohit. So king will arrive at a decision, and after arriving at the decision, king will discuss that with the Purohita. Purohit was basically the conscience keeper of the king, and after getting the nod, the approval from the king can take the decision. That was a decision-making process. Kautilya further says that consultation is important, but at the same time, the confidentiality of the consultation is also important. If the confidentiality of the consultation is broken, then instead of having any gain, it may bring the loss to the kingdom. विमर्श होना चाहिए, और विमर्श को गोपनीय भी रखा जाना चाहिए राज्य की सफलता के लिए. Now about the appointment of the chief of the army staff, सेनाध्यक्ष की नियुक्ति. Kautilya has prescribed the qualification that he should be an experienced soldier, should have the knowledge of weapons, should have the knowledge of war strategy, should have fought in the battles, should have defended his own country, and so on and so forth. But then the last qualification was that such an able person must not have even the iota of ambition of becoming the king. ऐसे योग्य व्यक्ति को देश का राजा बनने की महत्वाकांक्षा नहीं होनी चाहिए. Meaning thereby, if such an able person is having even the iota of becoming the king, he can dislodge the king and can take the power to himself. This is regularly happening in our great peace-loving neighbor. This is good that in last 7 years or so, the popularly elected government has not been thrown out of the power by the military, but still the government is under the great control and pressure of the military, and I'm talking about my great peace-loving living nation that goes by the political name of Pakistan. हर बार वहां 5-5, 6-6 साल पर ये सब तमाशे होते रहते हैं, जहां सेना जो है चुने हुए राष्ट्र नेता को, प्रधानमंत्री को बेदखल करके खुद ले लेती है. Not only in Pakistan, this has taken place in India also. Pushyamitra Sung was an army general. He dislodged the king and he became the king himself. So Kautilya says that an able person, from our point of view, must not have any iota of ambition to become the king also. And if he's having any ambition of becoming the king too, such a person is disqualified to become the chief of the army. Then he has provided various batteries of tests. His financial corruptibility should be examined, should be uncorruptible financially. His sexual corruptibility should be examined, and that at the end, there has to be a psychological test that whether that person has got any ambition of becoming the king also. If he has got any ambition of becoming the king, such a person should not be made the chief of the army staff. Then the fourfold politics which Kautilya has created, that was Sama, Dama, Danda, Bheda. Sam is what? If your country is weak, establish friendship with your neighbor or with your friendly countries. Establish friendship. If you are weak, in the interim period, you acquire strength, become strong. तो अगर दुश्मन देश मजबूत है तो उससे लड़िए मत, उससे दोस्ती बना लीजिए. Meanwhile, you make your country strong. अपने देश की ताकत बढ़ाते रहिए. दाम, परचेस, खरीद लीजिए. And by doing this in the interim period, you gain power. This is what China is doing today, making investment in many countries and in the process weakening their economy. Sama, Dama, Danda, Bheda. If your country, if the enemy country is weak, punish that and finish that. And Bheda, if you can't do all this, divide that country. And this is what Britishers did to us. Divide India in regions, religions, caste, creed, so that they don't have any united single identity, single strength as an Indian. So, Sama, establish friendship and finish. Dama, purchase and finish. Danda, fight and finish. Punish and finish. Bheda, divide and finish. That is fourfold politics which Kautilya has given. Now, some of his messages and relevance of those messages today, he says that a country with which your boundary is shared is your natural enemy. And the country next to that is your natural friend. By this wisdom, Pakistan is your natural enemy and Afghanistan is your natural friend. Whatever might be happening today in Afghanistan, as a matter of fact, in due course of time, Afghanistan will prove to be a good friend of India. And this has what happened in the history also. When President Daud was the president of Afghanistan, and Honorable Morarji Desai was the Prime Minister of India. Mr. Daud, President Daud of Afghanistan, made a proposal before Morarji Desai that this Pakistan is a rogue nation. It is troubling you and it is troubling me also. So let us finish Pakistan. You take some part and I'll take some part. In international politics, such consultations do take place. And Sri Morarji Desai made this consultation public. And as a result of this, he was given the highest civil award of Pakistan, Nishan-e-Pakistan, which was opposed by the Pakistan Assembly, and in a very insulting way, that award was sent to his residence by a junior officer of the Foreign Affairs Ministry of Pakistan at his residence, Mumbai. So, Pakistan is our natural enemy. Bangladesh that we created, since we have a shared boundary, even Bangladesh is creating problem. Sikkim was an independent nation, but in 1971, in UN Security Council, Nepal, Bhutan, Sikkim, Sri Lanka, of course, Pakistan, they have voted against India. China, according to this, is again natural enemy of India, but Soviet Union then, now Russia, is a natural friend of India. China is a natural enemy, and you can see Lanka also creating problem here or there. Bangladesh, which is our creation, has been creating problem for us at various point of time. Nepal too has raised it in voice, and the only one reason, according to Kautilya, is that our boundaries are shared. There is only one or two exceptions that the world history has seen about this wisdom of Kautilya. Canada and America share boundaries and they are very friendly nation. दोनों में बड़ी दोस्ती है. Similarly, when Sikkim was not the part of India, then also there was very good relationship with Sikkim and India. Can take the example of Iran and Iraq. They share boundaries and there is lot of trouble, persistent and perpetual trouble between Iraq and Iran. So the country which shares boundary with your country is your natural enemy. You need to be alert and careful about it. For Kautilya, the interest of the nation was supreme. That was top. सबसे बड़ा जरूरी था देश का हित करना. इसके लिए कौटिल्य कुछ भी कर सकता था, कुछ भी करता था. So these are a few wisdom that Kautilya Arthashastra has given to us. Now look at the hero of Kautilya and his upbringing. There are also great messages in this. This Chandragupta was a commoner, born in a poor family. So, ये जो Chandragupta था, he was a commoner born in a poor family and used to look after the cattle. Once upon a time, he was playing with his friends in the village while looking after the cattle. Kautilya, after running away from the clutches of a king, Padmanand was his name, was hiding over there, and he saw Chandragupta as a boy kid looking after the cattle and participating in a drama. In that drama, Kautilya was playing, Chandragupta was playing the role of a king. And he was playing the role of a king like an apt, experienced king, distributing work, doing coordination, giving awards and punishment. Kautilya appears on the screen and tells Chandragupta that you are a king and I am a scholar. So one of the duties of the king is to give donation to the scholars. So Chandragupta immediately gives him away all the land around. Of course, that land was not his. Then Kautilya purchased Chanakya purchased Chandragupta from his own maternal uncle, educated him, and installed him as the king of this country. From there, this Maurya dynasty starts. Not only an ordinary king, but most important, very powerful king. And that period of Indian history is known as the golden period of Indian history. Kautilya's Arthashastra is available in many languages, and at certain places for army training, it has been made the part of the army training. And Pakistan is one country where Kautilya Arthashastra is taught to the army officers. In India, as Nishit Dubeji told you, that I have been associated with the Army War College by my own effort, the lesson of Kautilya's Arthashastra is being given to the Indian Army also. One example, one text, and my sole purpose was that some of you should have developed the interest in Kautilya's Arthashastra and start reading this Kautilya's Arthashastra. One example I will take from Valmiki Ramayana. If time permits, one example I will take from Mahabharata also, then the floor will open for your questions, discussions, etc. In Valmiki, I'll first tell you the situation. Ram has accepted the exilement. He has come to Chitrakuta. Bharat has not accepted the throne of Ayodhya, and he makes an attempt to bring Ram back to Ayodhya. He comes to Chitrakuta with his teachers, other brothers, the citizens, and many people to persuade Lord Rama to return to Ayodhya and to start looking after the kingdom and to take the reign as the king of Ayodhya. Of course, Ram will not do any such thing. But at the same time, Ram wants the kingdom of Ayodhya to grow and survive. And therefore, he gives many lessons to Bharat in what way he will conduct himself as a king of Ayodhya. Now, that is the background. Remember the situation. Bharat has been declared as a formal king, though he has not accepted. And Ram is in exilement. He has no legitimate power as a king. So if he starts telling Bharat that as a king, this is what are your duties, these are the do's and these are the don'ts, there was a chance that Bharat might say that you find out the ways and means of conducting yourself in the forest. I will learn anyway the ways and means of conducting myself as a king of Ayodhya. Though nothing of that kind was likely to happen, but Ram still took that care because Bharat has been declared as the formal king of Ayodhya. Every chair has its ego. Every position has an ego. If you are a teacher, you have ego. You are head of the department, you have an ego. If you are the head of the institution, you too have an ego. So there are many of an ego associated with the position that you acquire. Ram is very careful about it. So he is giving indirect lessons to Bharat that as a king, you might be doing this. As a king, you are already doing this. You might already be doing this. So the suggestions, the lessons have not been poured on him directly in an indirect way. ऐसा नहीं कि जैसे भरत को, राजा साहब को उनका भाई राम पढ़ा रहा है और वो राजा साहब रिवोल्ट कर दे, ऐसा नहीं. The lessons have been given to him in indirect way. Now, what are the lessons? There are many lessons that has been given, but I will discuss with you only a few of that. Bharat, I am quite sure that scholars and teachers like Vasishtha, Viswamitra, etc., are getting their due respect in Ayodhya as they were getting already. गुरुओं का सम्मान, विद्वानों का सम्मान पूर्वत तो होता ही होगा. Now the question is, why scholars and sages should be respected? Because these scholars and sages are basically selfless persons. They have nothing to gain from the kingdom of Ayodhya, but kingdom of Ayodhya might be benefited by their knowledge and experience. So if they are not respected properly, perhaps the kingdom of Ayodhya will deprived of the knowledge that these scholars can give. Second lesson. Ladies and mothers in the house, I believe, must be happy and safe. माताएं और घर में जो स्त्रियां हैं वे सुरक्षित और प्रसन्न होंगी. Why this thing should happen? If I don't have my house in order, I cannot be a good performer outside. If I have a nagging wife, quarrelsome wife, disobedient sons and daughters, I cannot be a good academician, researcher outside. So in order to be a good performer outside, you need to keep your house in order. And this lesson has come from the Valmiki, that the mothers, ladies, etc. in the house, they must be happy and safe. If there is a trouble in the house, your workplace will also be disturbed, because you are the same person. You don't have fragmented and divided mind that this is for the house and this is for the workplace. Japanese management, when it became very popular in 80s onwards, Japanese management has given this lesson to us, that you keep your house in order to become a good performer outside, and that wisdom is available in Valmiki Ramayana. Further, I'm sure that you might be giving salary and perks to your soldiers right in time and other employees right in time. Why should this be done? Ram explains that if your soldiers and the workers are not satisfied, they can revolt against you. वे आपके विरुद्ध आंदोलित हो सकते हैं, and then you will become weak. And I hope you might not be eating good things in isolation alone. You must be sharing with your brothers and friends. चुपके चुपके तुम सुस्वादु चीजें अलग से नहीं खाते होगे, वो अपने बंधु बांधवों के साथ ही खाते होगे. Again, going back to the Japanese management, that there has to be a common canteen. When Maruti Udyog Limited was established in India, that was one first experiment in India of adopting the Japanese management. Those who know about this factory, it has only one industrial relation trouble in its whole history from 1980 and onwards. They have a common canteen for everybody, same dress for everybody, and only separate chamber is given to a few people only who have to talk to the outside persons about the business. Otherwise, it is an open hall where you sit and you can see others and you can discuss the things others. Again, Bharat was told by Lord Rama that I believe that you will not be taking any decision without consulting your ministers, and so on, so forth. So You can replace the king by the chief executive. You can replace by the chief executive. The lessons are pertinent and important even today. Of course, as I shared with you earlier, that the jargon is not present, but the entire wisdom is present. I will take one example from Mahabharata. The last Parva of Mahabharata is Shanti Parva. In Shanti Parva, Bhishma is on his Sarasaya, waiting for the Uttarayan to come and to accept the death. Yudhishthir, along with Lord Krishna, reaches the bank of Ganges where Bhishma is on Sarasaya, and Bhishma Pitamaha is giving various lessons to Yudhishthir, all the Pandavas. When this news spread, many of the sages and philosophers assembled over there to learn, to get the wisdom from Bhishma Pitamaha. And he has narrated very short stories to Yudhishthir in particular, Pandavas in particular, and to everybody present in general. One such story is the story of King Kshemadarshi and sage Kalak Brikshi. Kalak Brikshi एक फकीर हैं, साधक हैं, ऋषि हैं, और क्षेमदर्शी राजा साहब हैं. Both Kalak Brikshi and क्षेमदर्शी were the childhood friends. बचपन के ये दोनों दोस्त हैं. Once upon a time, Rishi Kalak Brikshi wanted to know the well-being of his friend क्षेमदर्शी and his kingdom. He reaches the kingdom, the capital, and he was astonished to note that the government officers are deep down into corruption up to the neck. सारे शासकीय सेवक भ्रष्टाचार में लगे हुए हैं. Being a kind-hearted saint, he tells the government officers, the implies Kshemadarshi, not to get involved into bad and corrupt practices. Whatever Kalak Brikshi was doing that, whatever Kalak Brikshi was telling them, that was 100% correct. So the government officers were very astonished. And one of the smart guy wanted to know from Kalak Brikshi that how could you know all these minute details about our activities? Kalak Brikshi tells him that, I have a crow with me, that is pet. And this crow keeps on telling me everything. मैं ये कौवा अपने पास रखता हूं और ये कौवा मुझे सारी चीजें बताता रहता है. Therefore, I know all your activities. They were very much afraid that this rishi will, of course, meet his friend, the king Kshemadarshi, and will report him everything. And therefore, there should not be any proof with him. So the government officers killed the crow of Kalak Brikshi. सरकारी अधिकारियों ने अपने ऋषिवर के जो क्रो था, कौवा था, उसको मार डाला. Now there is no proof. So what is the message over there? That if you disclose the source of information, two things may happen. That source of information may be destroyed, like the crow of Kalak Brikshi, and another, that source of information may not give you information anymore. तो ये लेसन क्या हुआ कि अपने सूचना के स्रोत को आप प्रकट न करें, वरना उसके ऊपर खतरा आ सकता है और वो खत्म किया जा सकता है. Keep secret your source of information, otherwise that source of information will have the same fate as was the fate of the crow of Kalak Brikshi. Then Kalak Brikshi meets the king, Kshemadarshi. Kalak Brikshi tells him that your officers are deep down into corruption up to the neck. And then he gives him a lesson that don't punish them, all of them together. If you punish them, all of them together, then they may gang up against you and they can start destabilizing you. Of course, their guilt is proved, and therefore you punish them one after another. एक को दंड दिया, कुछ समय बाद दूसरे को खत्म किया, फिर तीसरे को खत्म कर दिया, and they should not be given the opportunity and occasion to gang up. Is not a managerial message क्या हुआ? People with guilt should not be punished together in one go. They should be punished one by one, otherwise they can gang up and they can dislodge the king, in old context, and in modern context, the chief executive. There is a story in Hindi speaking part of India about the keeper of a garden and 4 persons approaching that garden: a king, a businessman, a scholar, and a worker. They started plucking fruits from the garden, and the keeper of that garden was alone. He did not have the capability of registering them all together. Then he tells that yes, the land belongs to the king and he has the right on the fruits. Therefore, if he is plucking the fruits, he has every right. Businessman gives me loan on occasions. Therefore, he too can pluck the fruits. Then the priest, he tells us religion and help me performing the religious activities. Pluck the fruits. Then he talks to the worker. What right you have to pluck the fruits? And then he squarely beats him up. And then, of course, he is separated from the group. Then he talks to the trader, that gentleman. Whenever I took any loan from you, you take heavy interest in that. And this garden was not free for you. You should not have plucked any fruit from here. Remaining 2 were also convinced that yes, the trader should not have plucked the fruits. He was also dealt with very thoroughly, beaten up squarely by the keeper of the garden. Then he comes to the priest that whenever I invited to my house to perform any activity, you have never done it free of cost. This garden was not free, and therefore you don't have any right to pluck the fruits. Pandit ji ki bhi achhi khasi pitai kar di. Then he turns towards the landlord, the king. कहता है कि I have been paying the due taxes, the rent on the land regularly. So with what authority you have plucked the fruits from my garden? Of course, the 3 were separated and they were already beaten up. And then at the end, he beats up the 4th one also. So Kalak Vrikshi tells Khemadarshi that you punish people one by one, and if you punish them all together, they will gang up against you and they can dislodge you. As I told you in the beginning, that this is just the tip of the iceberg. And this is very great literature. And if anybody develops interest in this, I will consider this interaction with you as giving some reward and fruits. Now, I am working on the Indian knowledge system. Any one of you who has interest in Indian knowledge system is free and welcome to join that group which is working on Bharatiya Jnana Parampara, Indian knowledge system. And if you show interest, I will involve you and invite you for my activities. You can call me on my personal phone number 94250 65939. I am repeating the number again, 94250 65939, and I pick up every call if I'm not meditating or teaching. So you can call me anytime, and if I missed your call, I call back. You can write me on my personal email ID also. That is PN Mishra, MISHRA @hotmail.com. PN Mishra, hotmail.com. So I declare the floor open for any questions, comments, and that questions and comments may continue for 20-25 minutes. So the floor is yours for questions, comments, criticism, idea, and opinion. Please come forward.
Dear participants, we had a very engaging and wonderful lecture by Dr. N Mishra Sahab. So now floor is open. You may have your own queries. You may want to share something, what you have been doing, or so floor is open. Please come forward, unmute and speak.
No questions, no comments. Okay. There are three. Yeah, please, Nishitji.
Uh, I think we may ask one more time. Okay, friends. If yes, Dr. Hiren Kumar, you have given your thanks for the very nice lecture. But as Sir has already told that even some of you want to engage in development and in this area, Indian knowledge system. So, in that regard or in any regard, if you have any questions, you can please ask. Sir, meanwhile, you can go ahead. You were continuing with something, sir.
Okay. I'll tell you three circumstances in which participants ask question, and three circumstances when participants do not ask questions. They do not ask question because they have not listened to anything, and therefore there is no question.
Sir, I just had a question in terms of.
Yeah, let me finish this point.
Okay.
Another reason is that he has been speaking for 1.5 hours. If I ask a question, then another 10-15 minutes he shall be answering this. So no question. Another is that whatever I shared with you, you listen to that properly, and therefore there is no question. So in these three circumstances, there are no questions. There are three circumstances in which you ask questions, that you want to show your presence, that you want to establish that, yes, you know more than me. And the third and the best situation is that you want to learn this thing. You need such kind of clarification. So I only believe that you have learned everything. You have listened to me carefully, and therefore there is no question. Yes, there was a comment. Please come forward.
Sir, I had just one question when you were
Yeah,
talking
please
about.
introduce yourself, the name and the place where you are.
My name
Yes,
is Nishant
Nishant.
Akkar,
Yeah,
and I'm from Institute of Hotel Management, Aurangabad.
Aurangabad. Okay.
Okay, so now my question is, let's say when we were talking about having Mahabharata and having this Indian ethos, given to students at a higher education level, I sometimes feel it as a challenge where people don't connect to this whole Indianness of our management principles. So,
Okay.
how do you go about getting that first instilled, or inspiring them in terms of understanding that there is an Indian perspective to management?
Okay. You know, the question of connecting to the problems of modern day management comes only when you know what is the ancient wisdom. If you do not know the ancient wisdom, the question of connecting it will not involve. For example, in personal management, you might be discussing and telling your students about the heart stop rule of punishment. It should be immediate, it should be constant, it should be for everybody, it should be reminding also. This Kalak Brikshi instance was about punishing people. So had you known it, perhaps you will add another dimension to the principles of punishment, that if there are large number of people committing the same kind of crime, punish them one by one. If you punish them all together, perhaps your work will stop and they will gang up against you, and they may dislodge you. सब एक स्वर से बोलने लगे कि यही निशांत ही बदमाश हैं, बाकी सारे लोग तो बड़े अच्छे हैं. As a matter of fact, the reality might be otherwise. Then you have the problem of punishment. You might have studied and might have taught theory X and Y and Z. What is theory X? That people, in brief, people are work seeking, they are lazy, and they don't work if they are not punished. In short, what is theory Y? Work is fun. You enjoy work, provided the situation has been created where you can enjoy the work. And then you have theory Z. What is that theory Z? You cannot say anything for sure what works better, theory X or theory Y. In Bhagavad Gita, we have talked, Krishna has talked about three kind of doers, three kind of implies, three kind of karta in the language of Bhagavad Gita: tamasic, rajasic, sattvic. For tamasic karta, Maslow's theory X applies. Only the fear of punishment, the fear of hunger will make him work. For rajasic karta, praise, appreciation, honor, all these things work. And for a sattvic karta, leave it everything to his will. Whenever he thinks or thinks that the opportunity is there, there's a need for his intervention, he or she will work. So, after talking theory X and Y of Maslow's, we also need to talk about the concept of karta, three kind of karta given by Lord Krishna in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. You know, first question is not relating with the old things. The knowing the old thing is the main question. When we don't know all these things, then in what way we cannot relate them? So first of all, the knowledge, the information has to be there. Then any creative mind, any intelligent mind will find out the applications. As I shared with you already, that wisdom is there, but the jargon is not there, because the principles which control mind and matter, people and the nature, they have not changed at all, and they will never change at all. With the advent of science and technology, the strategy of application can change. Principle will not change. There is an old administrative principle that, present administrative, old administrative principle that the chief executive, the king, must take some information first hand incognito. So in ancient times, the king will come out as a beggar, as a thief, and will meet people and try to identify where the problem is. Now the chief executive need not move on the roads in the guise of a beggar or a thief. Technology will help you to do all these things. He could install the hidden cameras. He could install these spying devices. The principle remains the same. The chief must collect some first-hand information incognito, because his own department of statistics can take him for a ride. But the advent of science and technology, new technology will make you change your strategy of application. सिद्धांत नहीं बदले हैं, क्योंकि प्रकृति को नियंत्रित करने वाले नियम और मनुष्य को नियंत्रित करने वाले नियम कभी नहीं बदले हैं. उनके प्रयोग करने की रणनीति, the strategy is contingent upon the technology. Therefore, your strategy will change, not the principles. Thank you, Nishanji, for opening the dialogue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
any other question or comment? Samir, you wanted to say something? Please come forward.
हाँ जी सर, नमस्कार।
नमस्ते।
सर, मैं डॉक्टर समीर स्वामी प्रेमानंद महाविद्यालय मुकीरियां पंजाब से हूँ। अभी
अच्छा
सर मैंने सारा सुना आपका, तो मेरे मन में एक
थैंक यू
प्रश्न है।
वेरी मच। जी बिल्कुल
मतलब
पूछें समीर जी।
जितना ज्ञान आप लोगों से अभी हमने कैप्चर किया आपसे, मुझे एक बात नहीं समझ लगी कि भारत में सब कुछ है, हमारे पास सारी संपदाएं हैं, हमारे पास सब कुछ है, तो हम इसको आगे चैनलाइज क्यों नहीं कर पा रहे हैं? मतलब लोगों के सामने अपनी इस सांस्कृतिक धरोहर को, या जो ज्ञान लोग हमारे नाम पर यूज कर रहे हैं, हम उसको
हाँ जी प्लीज कम फॉरवर्ड।
हाँ जी सर,
इसका
मतलब उसको, हाँ जी सॉरी सर।
देखिए इसके दो कारण हैं। एक तो हमारा अपना प्रमाद, अपना आलस्य, और दूसरे इन नॉलेज सिस्टम को हमने परिपूर्णता से ग्रहण नहीं किया। इतने बड़े हम शास्त्रार्थी हो गए कि हमने अपनी रक्षा भी करना मुनासिब नहीं समझा। इस नाते हमारी ये दुर्दशा हो गई। यहाँ पर ये समीचीन होगा कि गौतम बुद्ध की कुछ शिक्षाएं मैं बताऊं आपको। जब वो मृत्यु के करीब हैं तब अपने शिष्यों से बात करते हैं, और इसको मैंने बहुत जिम्मेदारी से इसका संग्रह किया है। I will put forward the translation in a short while from now because many people might not be able to understand my Hindi language. तो पहली बात तो वो कहते हैं कि आत्मदीपो भव, अपने प्रकाश तुम खुद बनो। वो बात न मानो जो मैं कहता हूं। आगे कहते हैं अपने उद्देश्य को प्राप्त करने के लिए लगातार प्रयत्न करते रहो। फिर कहते हैं अपने आर्थिक संसाधनों को व्यवस्थित रखो, एंटरप्रेन्योर बनो, उद्यमी बनो, प्रमादी न बनो। ये गौतम बुद्ध की शिक्षाएं हैं। अपने पर्पस के लिए काम करो, खुद के प्रकाश स्वयं बनो, उद्यमी बनो और प्रमादी न बनो। गौतम बुद्ध की बात सुन करके कई सारे राजाओं ने अपने आर्मी को डिसमेंटल कर दिया। इस पे गौतम बुद्ध की जो प्रतिक्रिया थी वो मैं आपको बताता हूं। उन राजाओं को गौतम बुद्ध ने कहा कि तुमने सेना क्यों डिसमेंटल की है भाई? सेना का काम युद्ध करना ही नहीं है, सेना का काम रक्षा करना भी है। और अगर तुम्हारे रक्षा का तंत्र असुरक्षित है, कमजोर हो गया है, तो तुम अपने प्रयोजन को प्राप्त नहीं कर सकते हो। ये गौतम बुद्ध कहते हैं। तो इन सारी शिक्षाओं से इतने हम ज्ञान मार्ग पर चल पड़े कि हमने शास्त्र और शस्त्र का समन्वय त्याग दिया। इसके बाद जो जिसकी मर्जी हुई वो हमारे साथ करता रहा। पलासी की लड़ाई और बक्सर की लड़ाई, जहां से कंपनी हुकूमत की शुरुआत होती है, ब्रिटिश रूल की शुरुआत होती है। पूर्व प्रधानमंत्री अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी ने अपने एक भाषण में कहा है कि क्लाइव और नवाब की सेनाएं जब क्लैश कर रही थीं, तो हमारे भाई बंधु वहां पर खड़े थे जैसे फुटबॉल का मैच देखने गए हो, ये कौन जीतता है। और इसके बाद क्लाइव जीत गया तो उसकी जय जयकार करने लगे कि जैसे कि कोई एक टीम जीत के आ रही हो। ये हमने किया है। अगर हम नवाब के पक्ष में खड़े हो जाते इतने सारे हिंदुस्तानी, ब्रिटिश हुकूमत की शुरुआत न हो सकती थी इस देश में। पानीपत की पहली लड़ाई, एक तरफ तो बाबर था, दूसरी तरफ इब्राहिम लोदी था। राणा सांगा ने बाबर की मदद की थी, यह ऐतिहासिक सत्य है। अपने हिंदुस्तानी भाई इब्राहिम लोदी की मदद करने नहीं गया। अगर आप हिंदू मुसलमान की नजर से भी देखते हैं, मैं नजरिए से नहीं देखता, तो अपने हिंदुस्तानी मुसलमान की मदद वो पहले करता। राणा सांगा चला गया बाबर की मदद करने के लिए, इस उम्मीद में कि बाबर जीतेगा, लूटपाट करके चला जाएगा और इब्राहिम लोदी की जगह दिल्ली की गद्दी पर वो मुझे बैठा देगा। ऐसा हुआ नहीं। तो दूसरी पानीपत की लड़ाई राणा सांगा और बाबर के सेनापति हेमू के बीच होती है। ये हमारा चरित्र है जिसे अब हम बुद्धिजीवियों को बदलना चाहिए, जिसकी तरफ मैंने संकेत किया आज के भाषण में भी कि कास्ट, क्रीड, रीजन, रिलीजन में हम डिवाइडेड हैं। हमारी एक आइडेंटिटी हो, इंडियन, भारतीय, भारतवंशी, यही हमारा गोत्र है, यही हमारा परिचय है, भारतवंशी। और जिस संस्कृति को हमने इतने ऊंचे बैठाया है, उस संस्कृति की रक्षा करना भी हमारा काम है। इट इज आवर ड्यूटी, आवर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी। थैंक यू, आपने ये सवाल पूछा कि इस बात को और मैं एम्फेसिस के साथ आपके सामने रख सकूं। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
धन्यवाद सर, धन्यवाद।
और कोई क्वेश्चन ऐसे पूछना चाहें तो? मेरे ख्याल से सर सारे क्वेश्चंस हो चुके हैं। बहुत ही प्रभावी सर आपका लेक्चर था। इनफैक्ट आपका ऑरा ही इतना जबरदस्त है कि
थैंक यू निशित जी, थैंक यू।
मेरा तो बहुत पुराना संबंध आपसे रहा है। सर मैं हृदय से धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूँ। आई वुड लाइक टू थैंक यू ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ डायरेक्टर सर, निटर भोपाल, फैकल्टी एंड ऑल द पार्टिसिपेंट्स फॉर गिविंग सच अ वंडरफुल सेशन सर। क्लियरिटी एक के बाद एक आपने सारे ग्रंथों की दी और विद एग्जांपल्स आपने कोट किया, और प्रैक्टिकल जो सर्कमस्टेंसेज आज हमारे कंट्री के हैं उससे सर जो आपने रिलेट किया, दैट वाज वेरी मच इंटरेस्टिंग। साथ ही साथ आई वुड आल्सो लाइक टू थैंक द पार्टिसिपेंट्स फॉर आस्किंग सच क्वेश्चंस। एंड सर वी firmly believe that Indian knowledge system should also be apart from the very early education system, so that systematic inputs may be imbibed, systematic value systems would be imbibed in all the students, and so that we can reap the fruits of our Indian knowledge system. Once again, sir, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for sparing time, your valuable time, and delivering to us. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Nishit sir. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.